Hello, lovelies. I had a loading screen and everything, and then I failed utterly to turn it on. So you just don't get one today. I also had a bit of a false start. It's been a bit of an afternoon. Hello to everybody who's hanging out in chat. Hi, Robbie. Hi, Massa. Hi, Calvert, lurking over there. Hey, Moomin. Hi, Memers. Hi, Sam. Hello to anybody else who's lurking as well. Robbie, you spent the summer thinking about the colour for your palace, and ended up with the same colour you were thinking about last winter. Very good. I've just realised, and I don't know how I did it, despite telling Ruffle how to do this on hers. I don't have side tone enabled, and it's bugging me. So there we go. Oh my god, that's so much better. I can hear myself. Anyway, so total pro that I am. I know. In my defence, for anybody who's been following my ongoing laptop saga, the one that has been sent off to repair 3 times now, I finally had some sharp words, and they have refunded it, which meant that I went out and immediately bought a newer, better laptop, which arrived what are we on, 9 o'clock? So 5 hours ago. So I've had a frantic afternoon trying to set everything up, and then of course trying to match all of the settings for my streaming stuff, get all of my worm stuff and my streaming things transferred across. It's been hectic. But I've got enough stuff in place that I can stream this evening, and that's the important thing, right? But I haven't stopped. So if something doesn't work right, we'll just have to fix it. Speaking of which, how's the sound? Is the sound okay for you guys? I did do a very quick record beforehand, which is unfortunately what then scuppered me, where I went live without my title screen or anything, and then had to stop and reboot. All good for you, Calvert. Okay. So today we're on Exodus, and instead of how many new computers does this make, Massa? One, as in the laptop that went off for repair 3 times was one that I bought new last summer, and has been problematic pretty much all of this year. So I had to keep switching back to my old gaming laptop, which struggled a bit, which is why I'd switched away from it before I started streaming. So that was a new laptop from last year, which had just dropped out of warranty and was causing no end of trouble with overheating, especially with Worm, that has now been replaced. So I'm glad that they refunded it so that I didn't have to buy 2 very expensive gaming laptops in 2 years. Here's hoping this one does better. Changed brand. Upgrades all round. I'd like to say lesson learned, but we'll see, won't we? Sounds good to you, Sam. Good, good. Yeah, so I'm on Exodus today, and it's just going to be a little bit of a pottering stream. I was considering doing something sort of like skilling based, like maybe archaeology, because we are, of course, in the middle of a skill gain event. There are 8 days left for your 10% bonus skill gain and bonus affinity chance. But, oh, that reminds me, I wonder if I've got some digging booze. But anybody who's in the Coterie channel might have noticed that I have been I have been shedding deeds at a rate of knots over the past few weeks. I have shut down three. I've shut down 3 deeds. I was down to 5, and I'm considering letting go of another one. So so that would have gotten me down to, I think, 4. Or wait, was I down to 6? God, you know, how bad is it that I lose count? I have 2 on Exodus at the moment. I had 4. Although strictly I have 3, because that's the story I was coming to. I dropped another deed last night. Okay, so I have 3 on Exodus. I have 3 on release. And I have 1 on Independence. Which, unfortunately, that puts me on 7, doesn't it? God, I must have just dropped down to 6. Well, never mind. You know, deeds come, deeds go. What was I doing? Booze cupboard. Have I got any digging booze in here? Why, yes, I do. But I don't actually need to take it with me, but I am going to be doing some terraforming today. I'm probably not going to be turning my sleep bonus on for it, but since I've got booze specially for terraforming here, I might as well use it, and let's not fill the dredge up with it. That would be no good. Why am I carrying dye? I think that was for writing notes on treasure hunts yesterday. That's not the one I wanted, however, so let's pop that there. Ah, that's the one I wanted.
Stop it!
Hello, Ruffle. Heralded in by Calvert. For anybody who is not particularly familiar with affinity boozes or how you use them, you really don't need very much. If you've got a high quality booze, like if you've got something up in the high 90s, as opposed to making your own, and then the timings would differ. For a booze in the sort of like in the late 90s, an unfermented moonshine that has been well made, 20 grams will usually get me a few hours. 50 grams will get me the best part of a day. Day's worth of affinity with that, which is a teeny tiny amount. So we're only kicking about for an evening. So if I set that to 20 and drink that now before I go, we'll see what it gives me. 4 hours and 48 minutes. So that'll do me nicely. Don't think I'm going to need any of the other ones I've got here. I don't know if I've ever shown you guys my booze cabinet back at Brambleheim, but at Brambleheim I've got a booze cabinet with like 80 or 90 affinity boozes, and it's still not all of the things that the skills I might actually use in Worm. And I keep threatening to sort of make a mini booze cabinet over here on Exodus. But my one on release is cunningly disguised in a spirit cottage, which can hold a very, very large number of items in a very small space. So, you know, pro tip for anybody. Hi, Film. You don't need a crafting bench, basically. So it's not like other games where you have to set up a crafting bench and then you can make things. You can make things on your inventory, on the ground, wherever, but you don't need a particular workbench to do it at. Things are made by essentially having the materials in your inventory and using them. So, for example, if I get some planks and nails out of here or something, so we pull random plank out of there and some small nails, then you activate one item and you use it on another effectively. You cannot make a diamond pickaxe. No, you need to be playing Minecraft for diamond pickaxes. The best that we've got over here are moon metal ones. But yeah, so you activate one item and you use it on another one, basically, and you use the create menu to make things. You can also use this little, what is that? Is that a hammer and chisel? Down there will open up your crafting window, and likewise you can drop items into those slots to see what you can make with them. So that's how crafting's done in Worm. also welcome to WEM, I assume.
What is?
Calvert, don't tease new people. You're going to confuse them. Yes, Massa. Exactly what Massa said. The crafting bench is you. So yeah, so items are crafted by using items on other items in WEM effectively, and houses are built by using a mallet or a trowel, depending on whether you're building in wood or stone, and actually selecting like tiles and tile borders in planned houses and things. But I'm not doing any building today. Okay. I'm not doing any building today, but I am. It's because I have just dropped a brand shiny new deed, and it's very, very rare that I have this opportunity at the very beginnings of a deed to show off a bit of what I do at the start of a deed. I thought that actually this might be a nice opportunity, so that's why I'm here doing. Just going to be waffling and puttering and doing a little bit of terraforming. And a little bit of, I guess, just kind of talking through my process at the very beginnings of a new deed. Now, I've had a few false starts with deeds on Exodus, as many of you will know. So I'm not making any big promises for this one, but it's a spot that I had deeded with the token in a slightly different place for a little while, so that I could chew over like what I wanted to do there, but I wasn't feeling inspired, and I was waiting for jetties to come out. And I got bored of waiting. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to let that deed drop, and I can always found it again if I want to. And then we got jetties. So I have deeded a similar place again. But this one over here, for example, this this fancy gateway and the treehouse over there, and Nefarious Games over here, this was the beginnings of a deed for a similar purpose that I want this one for. Yeah, Massa. Jetties, I do. I mean, they're called... I mean jetties because they're not just for docks. You can build platforms above ground. You can build them off the sides of buildings and things. So it's docks and everything else that you can do with it. Effectively, the ability to build platforms in the game is what I was waiting for. It was originally touted as docks, and I know that confusingly they've been calling it docks in all of the kind of the official press releases now, but it is kind of docks and more. Don't really know why I'm going this way, but anyway, yeah. So I had visions for this space to build a kind of mini pop-up event type deed where I could host little like stream games and stuff like that, and like mini events, because I don't have the staying power to do something like an Impelong made by boat. And my hat's off to people who do. But actually, I have disbanded this one, so these buildings are currently all sat off deed. Poor treehouse. I mean, the treehouse is still intact and probably will be for a little while if anybody wants to go and do the fun thing, which is climb on top of an oak tree, which is principally what this was built for. I'll show you. And if you're in Exodus anytime soon, you too can come and climb off the top of an oak tree. So if you wind your way all the way up to the top of this treehouse micropub, wrapped around an oak tree, you can then very excitingly go and stand on top of an oak tree, which is probably one of the only ways you'll be able to do it in game, because I've never seen any other way to do it. And the game will give you like anything from like a couple of seconds to maybe sort of like 10, 15 or more before it will just unceremoniously drop you into the tree. But you don't get stuck, you can just walk. You can walk right out of it. It's actually being quite kind at the moment and letting me stay up here for a while, but normally going into third person triggers something. So, look at this. Do you think their patches broke my my tree? I might just spend the rest of my stream up a tree now. But yeah, so you too can come and get stuck up a tree if you would like to. Will it let me? Oh, it's not going to let me get back up on the roof either. Calvert. Well, if it's been fixed. If it's been fixed, well, I wonder if the ability to build platforms has at all affected the kind of, I suppose this is effectively like base jumping type things, because usually what would happen is you would just drop through the tree and land on the floor. But I'm not. And I wonder if that now means that I can, oh my God, Can I make like an obstacle course where you have to go running through the treetops? Is that a thing now? Can we build tree houses? Well, Massa, I built a tree house, or my best attempt at a tree house, and that's what this is. I'm going to cough, so bear with me a second. Well, when you come and chop the tree down, Calvert, I'm sure I will fall down. But it is interesting that I don't seem to be dropping through now, and I don't know if this is a once off or if actually this is going to be a little bit of a game changer. It may also not be the tree doing this. It might be because they've rebuilt the building system. It might actually be these balconies and these canopies. I don't know. But interestingly, like I can run around all over the place and it's not throwing me off.
Time for science.
Can I chop it down from here? Good question. I tell you what, if I can pick a sprout from here, then I can probably chop it down from here. Oh, except it hasn't got any sprouts, has it? Let's try. Yes, I can, but I'm not going to. So, I mean, and that kind of makes sense because Worm is a world that looks 3D, but is really more kind of 2D in many ways. So you can reach things many floors above you if you're in the right position. Which does beg the question, though. Do I just live here now? Oh. Uh-oh. I shouldn't have tried to sneak down, should I? Is stuck gonna get me out? I need to be firmly on the ground. Cheeky. What did I... Apparently I upset the game so much that it disconnected. Uh-oh. Well, maybe that solved my problem, which was gonna otherwise be to town portal my way back out. So maybe don't come and climb up my tree unless you want to go and test mechanics for science, which I do. I like to do a lot. I don't think it's time for a bug report, Wolf, because otherwise, if I bug reported it in the first place, I never would have been able to stand on my tree for a few seconds. Oh, interesting. It's actually put me back in the building. So should we... You know what, let's not try it again. Let's not try it again. That's not what we came here to do. I was there for more than 15 seconds. I used to get like maybe 5 to 15 before it would unceremoniously just dump me down onto the floor. But if anybody would like to come and try climbing in my tree... I don't really fancy everybody getting like GM ticketed out a bit. But in fairness, because this building is an owned building, you should be able to log out in it. And when you log back in, because you don't have permission to be in the building, I think it would eject you out, but I would need to test that on a toon that doesn't have permissions. But anyway, so we are in the centre of Exodus, just here. I'm travelling up towards Sept. This is Thulspring, where I live with Calvert, and Calvert's lovely Blood Sands Arena over there. And this this deed that I have dropped for a second time is directly outside of Sept, which is what makes it particularly good site-wise for, say, a pop-up on-stream event deed. But it's quite challenging terrain, but the views are lovely. So I've got some thoughts. That centre part is not part of the building, that's true. But then if the game tried to log you back in, it would probably just log you back in, like, on the floor in the tree. The other possibility is that they've changed where they were dealing with animal collision. It might be the tree that's changed, and I haven't actually checked. Has anybody checked whether collision is different for trees now? I mean, you always collide with trees, but that one was a little bit funny in as much as it would let you drop down into the middle of a tree. I mean, collision looks pretty much the same on trees. It's pretty accurate. But before that would let you drop down into the middle of a tree and pop out, but it could actually be the kind of the changes to collision rules and pathing that's done that. But that means on my event deed, could I theoretically make an obstacle course that included making you walk across the top of trees? I could, right? Maybe? I feel like we should test it. Not today, right? Yeah, like, you know, obviously we're not right now, but I feel like we should test it for science. Also, hello to everybody who snuck into chat while I wasn't looking, and I've been saying hi to you anyway, but hi Film and hi Wolf, and hello Memers. If I didn't already say hello to Memers before. So this is Sept, which is the starter town on Exodus. We are on the Southern Freedom Isles, for anybody who's not familiar with it. Sept is actually one of the nicest start towns of the Southern Freedom Isles towns. Some of the servers have got pretty naff ones. Sept, I think, is quite pretty on the whole. And we've got a profusion of fancy guard towers scattered around Sept as well, and some very, very majestic looking mountains. I also did a sneaky little terraform on this slope a couple of days ago, and I don't know if anybody's noticed yet, but it's better now, because it used to lift up this side of the path. So as you came down this kind of 3-tile highway, this bit here was raised, and it bugged me, and there was no reason for it to be raised, so I fixed it. Shh. But this over here, this is the deed site that I have just deeded for a second time. And often when I'm talking about ways that I manage deeds, like when I'm trying to terraform and work out the space around them and pull them out to Deed Planner to look at them and stuff, I find I like there's things that I kind of take for granted that I know how to do that other people sometimes don't. So I thought this might be a good opportunity to just talk through some of the things that you can do when you're doing kind of deed planning. It does seem like a fun experiment, doesn't it, Wolf? Massa, you always forget if you're an SFI or an FI. What server are you on, Massa? I don't actually know. But I know that, because it never, of course, before they had the Steam launch, the Northern Freedom Isles didn't exist. And so the Southern Freedom Isles was just the Freedom Isles. And I know that there was definitely like a period of adjustment where everybody who had always just been on Freedom Isles then had to like get used to being like, wait, are we the South or are we the North? You're in Pristine, yeah. So you're one of those people who were like, but we were always the Freedom Isles. How do I know which one we are now? But yes, so this deed over here, this site over here, is the one that I keep eyeballing because it's super duper close to a portal. It's got sea access with canals in several directions. It is right around the corner from Thorspring, where I live when I'm on Exodus. You started in July. You must be one of the unusual ones then, Massa, that started on the Southern Freedom Isles, because most go to the north. I have just strong-walled it shut, but there was like a little cave in here. It went sort of just a few tiles in and round, and I've collapsed several of them to turn this back to a bit of a blank landscape, and I'll show you why in a bit. This configuration of really, really shallow and really, really deep, odd bits of like waterway, these seem to have been here for years. I was looking back at old Exodus maps, and I don't know who made these or what these were made for, but I also like, this seems like the sort of place that people would be dropping deeds on and off across a server's history, being so close to a start town. But I don't actually think there's been that many deeds here. Like there's been a few kind of like little ones where people haven't really done any kind of terraforming or development. But I don't think I haven't seen any kind of buildings around here in years and years. And the terraforming up there, like people have terraformed this at points over the years, but it's all kind of wonky. I'll show you. There's all kinds of broken paths and things up there. Hello, Grumpy. It used to be a market and merchants on the docks. Okay, cool. Do you know what? I would love, if anybody has any kind of screenies from around that time, I would love to see what this looked like. I don't know if there's buried in the forum somewhere, maybe on the screenshots thread or something, some older pictures of the spaces outside Sept. Certainly as long as I've been coming here, there hasn't really been much. There's been like a couple of like odd 1 or 2 tile huts that pull up and drop down, but Memers, could I repeat my answer? Hang on. Can you do 2 balconies facing each other and walk across them? By balconies, do you mean jetties, as in platforms? I think, I haven't tested whether you can use it to connect 2 buildings. I think you probably can't. And my assumption would be that you can't because at the point that you connect a jetty to a building, rather than building one independently on the ground from a planned floor, it becomes part of that building. And then the you can't build two buildings next to one another would kick in, I think. So I don't think you can use them as sort of like another way of bridging gaps, but I haven't tested it. So don't quote me on that. If anybody has tested it, I would be interested to hear though. Well, that's what we're talking about, Grumpy, whether the jetty system would allow you to connect the two ones. Oh, I see. Okay. So the new ones that came out with the docks update, not the platform ones. Do you mean as in like the braced versions? Or do you mean like the log balconies? I don't know if I'm misunderstanding you, Mimas. Let me just go and reread your question. 2 balconies facing each other and walk across them. Yeah, so the brace ones. Yeah, okay, I'm using my terminology poorly here. Whether it is a platform with supports or whether it is a platform that's braced against a building, if you build it out from the edge of a building, it is, I think, counted as part of the building in terms of permissions. Whereas if you plan a floor outside of a building and then you attach platforms to that, it doesn't count as part of a building, so you can build one of those right up to the edge of a building and effectively connect it. But I think if you build it off a building, it's already then like subsumed under the building thing, and therefore you can't build the building up to another build. But that's my assumption. I haven't actually tried. So as I say, if anybody has, I did have that thought as well, because it would make a really cool kind of sort of almost like a little like drawbridge look, right, with the 2 braced sides meeting in the middle. So if anyone's tried it, let us know. And yeah, if anybody knows anywhere that there's some nice pictures stashed of stuff that used to be here. This, as I say, this kind of layout here of the water, this doesn't seem to have changed for years, looking back through some old Exodus maps. But so up here, as you can see, there's sort of like there's been some bits of surface mining done over the years, and I don't know how, like, if this was ever done really beautifully and then, you know, was sort of other people came along and tried to turn it into other things and it got abandoned partway through. But it's a little bit messy up here. There's a few paths which are very, very kind of broken and wonky. One of the things that I want to fix, and I might start fixing today, is actually this one, which cuts down here and winds around. And I imagine that this is a path that is used by some people. It's one of the few ways to get up onto the top of this mountain range here. Wait, no, not that one. This one, sorry, this mountain range here. And I don't want to mess with this on the assumption that it is a path that people use, and this is all set at sort of, I think, 20 slopes. But what I am going to do, because it gets a little bit wobbly down here anyway, what I am probably going to do is take it out another couple of tiles this way so that it meets this path in a straighter line and meets it a little bit further down. And then you've got all these sort of like bits and pieces of paths that are broken, or you kind of like just abruptly stop spaces where it looks like maybe there were once bridges connected, or people have terraformed down where the paths were connected to other things. So you've got kind of, as you can see, sort of some flattened bits of land and some paths that sort of maybe go up to what is now a largely collapsed mine, but it's not exactly kind of smooth, clean terraforming. The paths are often quite wonky or quite lumpy in places, and you've got several places where paths just kind of break, and there are signs of other paths that they may be once connected to further down, but those paths also just sort of end. So there isn't really an easy way, short of carrying on up that 20 slope that I just pointed out on the other side of the tower, to get up and around here. Most of these places just kind of lead you to awkward, broken bits of dead end. And I do like a project. But really, the thing that I like best about this, I like the idea. I've always wanted to do sort of a really nice terraced deed up the side of a cliff. But one of the ways that I wanted to be able to do that was to have, overhanging platforms, and ways to do kind of walkways through them that didn't involve terraforming all of the land up. Because until we got jetties, basically anytime you wanted to do sort of terracing, you lose a couple of tiles to it, because you've got to have your slope tile. You've got to have a slope tile at least between platforms. And if you're doing sort of like dogleg type slopes or stairs and things, you need to use like extra ones to get round the corner and down. And that there's some ways to circumvent that, not completely, but some ways to circumvent that a little bit with platforms and do more interesting things maybe. So we've got this kind of flattish platform up here, which isn't entirely flat, but that can be fixed. See, like this is all kind of wobbly looking as well. Yeah, Mimas, if you do try it, let us know. So this is sort of flattish. You've got this nice platform up here, but the view from up here I think is lovely. And nighttime maybe isn't the best time for it, although I don't know, I do kind of like nighttime mists. But when we haven't got fog, you can see the water just the other side over there. So we're up here, and you can see all the way across to this body of water here. Down that way you can start to see down like the big canal that leads kind of north-south up towards Sept. Hi Galandria, how you doing? And there's some really nice mountains to look out on over here. I think it's really quite a nice vista. Looks right out over Sept. And I think that this sharp platform up here has some good potential for let's just stop fighting things, shall we? Has some good potential for doing some interesting kind of terracing work. But I haven't yet managed to like knock it up in Deed Planner and plan the whole thing. Sometimes I do just go into Deed Planner and I plan the whole thing, terraforming included. But if you have to do some major terraforming in a deed space, generally speaking, you want to go and try out the terraforming first before you plan the rest around it. Because otherwise you might find you get some nasty surprises where there are bits that you can't, that just don't work in the way that you wanted them to work. Massa, you looked up jetties and the wiki says that they protrude from land into water. Yeah, they can protrude from land into water. So for example, I could build jetties off here and have sort of like a platform that goes out over and into the water. It would have to be supports the whole way. At the point that you do a brace, I think that one has to be the last one. You can't then attach more to it. But with supports, I could build them out over the water here. Sadly, what you can't do yet, and what I really hope they will consider looking at letting people do, is attaching stairs to jetties instead of attaching them only to floors in buildings, because it would be super nice to be able to use jetties to then connect kind of wooden stairs to like other jetties and use them to make sort of, outdoor kind of stairways and walkways up and down places. You've been building log houses, Galandria. I mean, I love them. They do use a lot of materials, but I like them. I'm a big fan. Phil Max says, nice server if you forget about a lot of people in that big alliance. I mean, I find Exodus a nice server anyway. I find Exodus actually quite a friendly server for the most part. And I don't really have any interactions with people in other alliances. I think that Exodus is very, very pretty in a lot of places. It can be kind of a pain in the arse to traverse in a lot of places, because Exodus has a lot of very undredged water and quite shallow water in it. So never try and bring a deep draft boat into the middle of Exodus unless you really know what you're doing. You should be fine if you're in like sailboats and NARs. Even then though, sometimes you have to do a little bit of manoeuvring. But I mean, I think I've always been a big fan of certain parts of Exodus, and I particularly like this central bit. The canal up there has got bridges after bridges after bridges, so it's got these big like long tunnel entrances and walkways on the side that dip down and then come back up to meet the tops of the bridges and things, and it always reminds me a little bit of northern industrial towns. If you were ever on Chaos and not in the kingdom that the Alliance is from, they don't treat you well. Well, I'm not a PvPer, so can't speak to that. But I would imagine that that is probably true of most servers, with a couple of exceptions. I can't think of many servers on the Southern Freedom Isles that don't have quite significant PvP populations formed around particular kingdoms. But I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is not so bad elsewhere. But so yeah. So I like this platform. I want to tidy it up a little bit. This kind of pathway up here is a little bit of an oddity in as much as we've got this two tile wide track path up here as if it was meant to be a highway, but then absolutely nothing up here that it connects to is two tiles really. This one might qualify as 2 tiles, but I'm not convinced. But it's all kind of one tile paths, winding little roads up here. And as you can see, it's sort of like the connection points are not terribly tidy. So one of the other things I would be tempted to do to make better use of this space and to tidy it up is to actually turn this into a one track road all the way down here to connect up to the others, which then allows us to make a slightly better connection point here. I am doing a series on PvP. Well, I'm doing a series on the Epic servers, but we are not engaging in PvP, or not trying to anyway. So we are in a PvP environment, but kind of, on a home server in a PvP environment. And as far as I'm aware, none of the Epic players in our faction particularly have a base on the Freedom Isles in general. I think most of them are Epic players, first and foremost. So there you go. It's I don't know. I'm loath to call it a little uninspiring bit of dirt, because I don't think it is uninspiring, but I think it definitely needs work. It also has this is my boat, but it has some long abandoned vehicles on it that we're going to need to just shuffle off site, and because they don't have animals attached, we can do that one ourselves without help. This cave that went in here was not much use to me at all, and I thought about turning it into a boat mine, but actually, if I want to make terracing down this side, it would serve me even better to make a boat mine a bit further across. So I'm sort of counting on the fact that this rock here is going to be like this space up here. I think has probably been terraformed or surface mined down originally to this sort of level to match this. So thank you. So I should, I think, be able to dig this down and actually make a mine entrance somewhere over here-ish, maybe not quite as far as here. At some point I'm going to hit just dirt dropped platforms, but we'll see. Because then it would be quite easy to connect a sail in, mine a little bit further along, and that would just give us a little bit more room there for sort of terracing for platforms. I'm the person you've heard about on Epic that doesn't PvP. Well, it's not just a person. I mean, there's a crew of us that have gone over there, and we're PvEers who are not there particularly to get involved in PvP, because apart from anything else, you'd really struggle to actively do PvP on stream. But we wanted to go and explore a PvP environment and learn a little bit about how Epic works. Am I drinking beer? No, I'm drinking 7-Up. I don't drink beer, ever. Ever, ever. I cannot stand the taste of it. Drinking beer just tastes like teenage boys drunk on cheap French booze who've gone over and got it from the duty-free in Calais, trying to snog you at parties. And it's just, I've never really gotten past that association. So I don't like the smell of like very hoppy things. Definitely don't like the taste of beer. If you ever catch me drinking alcohol on stream, it's the milkshakes you got to watch out for, because occasionally, instead of a milkshake, I'm tempted to have a White Russian. So occasionally I'll have a cocktail. That's about as bad as it gets. So, you can't stand the smell of beer, memers. Yeah, me either. it's sort of, I don't, it's not even that I have particularly traumatic associations with it. I just have kind of like ugh, associations with it, and because I have quite strong sensory reactions to certain things, I think that's just one of those things that I very, very early decided I did not like, and have never quite gotten past. Look at that sky. Oh my God, look at it. Look at it, I love it. Now, one thing about this view, I'm just going to scuttle back up top. Because this view basically looks out west, for anybody that doesn't know, the sun rises and sets on the west side of the map. It rises in the northwest, northwest, and it sets in the southwest. So if you're somebody who likes sunrises and sunsets, you want to be facing basically any direction but east for a deed where you can catch good ones of those. You've been told your snipper's a strong one. Matt, so you do like beer, but you can't say you share that experience. What, of beer smelling and tasting like drunk teenage boys trying to snog you at parties? Good. I mean, I'm glad for you. There you go. Look at that colour shift. Oh my goodness. I actually got a little bit too far. I was just going to go down here because look at that colour. It's so good. Because the sun should be rising somewhere over there. There you go. You can mouse over it, even though we can't actually see it yet. I mean, look at that. How's that? How's that for a vista? Come on. I am a sucker for a good view. I've just learned that a good view is not enough to make me go visit a deed, which is why I am more and more putting deeds near the places I already frequent, because I'm much more likely to go to them if they're a convenient ride or portal hop away from the places that I spend time anyway. I'm much less likely to go to them if it takes a little bit more time to reach them. Oh, look at it. Right? Look what you're missing, Calvert. Are you lurking in Deed Planner instead of coming into Worm? Memers, I don't know what it's like where you are, but over here, like I I live in the southeast of England, which is hop central. Like beer is a very, very rich part of our history. We've got microbreweries and breweries dotted all over the southeast, and many of our pubs, and we have many, many pubs here, many of our old traditional pubs have dried hops decoratively strewn all about the pub. Like they weave them along like rafters and hang them over the bar and things. So there are a lot of places where I just can't escape the smell of them here, and that often tends to dictate the kind of pubs that I'd be willing to go back to and the ones that I wouldn't. They're very pretty to look at, but the hops definitely smell not the same as, but they trigger the same kind of sense memory for me that the beer itself does. And whether it's, no matter what kind of beer it is, whether it's beer, whether it's lager, even if it's a really nice like deep like dark ale or something, it doesn't matter. The hoppiness overwhelms it for me, so they all get written off together. You've got loads of bars and clubs and casinos. But hopefully not shitloads of breweries everywhere you go. There's a couple of towns near me where there's quite a few brewery towns around the southeast, and one of them has got a really, really nice yarn shop. But there's also a brewery right in the middle of the town, so it can be very difficult to escape the smell of hops sometimes when you go there, and it just kind of makes me not want to. So teenage boys were a thing even before my cougar era. Well, I was once a teenager too. And in fairness, wait, hang on a minute. My cougar era comment was not about a teenage boy. It was about a man in his late 20s who might as well be a teenager, quite frankly. But yeah, I mean, we've and loads of places to buy alcohol. I mean, there are over here as well. It's just sort of something particular, I suppose, about our pubs, and all of that kind of the hoppy smells, and like breweries in the towns and hop laden pubs So any kind of establishment will often have that same smell, that same kind of beery smell, which if you don't like it is quite unfortunate. But yeah, right, I just popped back up for the sunrise, and I forgot what I was even going to do down there. Everything does not have to be about it. There is cider too. I do like apples. I like cider. It does not always like me. I think I have a bit of a kind of, I don't want to say like an allergic reaction, but like it's often quite painful. I assume that it's something to do with like the fruit acids or something. And I don't have that problem with actual like apples and pears and things, but it always feels a little bit like I'm rolling the dice with cider. Like either I'll enjoy it and I'll be fine, or I'll have 20 minutes of being like in crippling pain, and sort of like coming out in a cold sweat before it passes. You live in a dry county, Vilma. Okay. So you prefer a good whiskey. I'm not really much of a drinker, to be honest. I like the smokiness of like quite peaty whiskies, but not enough to drink them. Not enough to drink them. So, first things first, I'm going to move these last few bits off the deed, so that it doesn't get in the way of my terraforming. So this very, very nice Orca Syndicate wagon is going to have to move. And as I said, because it doesn't have... is that really loud for you guys, that pushing sound? I might temporarily turn worm sounds down if it is. Because this doesn't have animals hitched, you can just move them about. You don't like peaty whiskies, Mercer? Fair enough. They are definitely an acquired taste. Right, what have we got that on? -9. I'm just going to temporarily turn the worm sounds down a little bit, because I don't know how loud that's being for you guys, but it's pretty loud in my ear. You're also moving. Wait, what are you moving? Are you even logged in? Oh, you are. Wait, where are you? Did you sneak in after I got out of local? Outrageous. Or are you just in stealth mode, actually lurking? Do you know what? I can't remember when they changed this, but I noticed the moment they did, one of the patches that we had, it was either earlier this year or maybe towards the end of last, but I feel like it was earlier this year, changed the minimum action timer. And it used to be that with a full stamina bar on deed, the first few pushes were lightning fast, and they're just not anymore. It's so much slower to push stuff around, and it doesn't notice, like, it doesn't affect you so much when it's like 1 or 2 pushes, but if you're pushing something over a distance, pain in the arse. Secret? What do you mean it's a secret? A secret as in what you're pushing around is a secret? Or where you're pushing it's a secret? He's only over there. Probably. He could be up at the villa. But I'm going to move this off deed, and at the moment, what I've done, because this is a new deed and I don't actually yet know how much space of it I want, I've done what I often tend to do, which is I've planted a smaller deed with a bigger perimeter, so that when I download the village plan into Deed Planner, I can get eyes on a bigger space without necessarily investing in it right now, because I don't know if I want the deed to cover all of that space, but I want to see it so that I can look at like the slopes, so that I can look at the shape of it in Deed Planner. So this has currently got a 15 tile perimeter, and the deed itself ends somewhere here-ish. There you go, ends there. And so the reason I do that is twofold. One, because it allows me to see a larger space and then decide how much of it I would like the deed to cover, but also because at the point that I decide I want to change stuff like that later, if I take tiles off the perimeter at the same point that I add tiles onto the deed, it mitigates the costs a little bit, basically. So I end up doing a little bit of shuffling around between deed and perimeter, trying to keep the costs more or less the same in the beginning, so that it doesn't feel like a lost investment just to get eyes on it early on in the deeding process. You're in trouble. Why are you? What you mean? Because I gave you the look. Okay, but it wasn't that look. It was a curious look, which is different. Totally different. Or do you mean you're in a different kind of trouble? Tell me you're not stuck up the tree in the tree house. So now I'm off deed. Pushing this would suddenly be so much slower, which I do not want to do because I want to move it all the way over there. So I'm going to cheat. And I'm actually going to show you how I cheat, because I do this trick all the time for managing the space around deeds. And just in case you don't know, let's switch me on to a different toon. So if I log in the deed owner, let's put her on a big screen so that you can see her. And I'll do a little switcheroo in a minute. I'll show you what I'm going to do. So if I now minimize Crim and pop this one up, can I get it to, there we go, right. So we're now on Deneen, who's the deed owner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily resize the deed in a different direction in order to make more of this deeded land, to make pushing that easier. So you can do this free of charge as long as you don't change the overall dimensions of your deed. This is not a Crim lookalike, no. They're not all Crim lookalikes. And in fairness, Olivette's not really a Crim lookalike. She's got a different skin tone, she's got different eyes, she's got a different mouth. She actually does have a different hairstyle, slightly, although she has the same hair colour and she does wear red. But no, not a Crim lookalike. So the way to do this is, if you go to resize your deed, where are we? Settlement, manage, resize. As long as you're not changing the overall size of your deed, you can shuffle the edges of your deed around in order to temporarily access space, as long as you're not butting up against somebody else's deed or perimeter. So it's not helpful that I don't have a compass on her, but in fairness, that way's north, this way is south. So at the moment, her deed only goes 6 tiles south. But if we knock, say, 9 tiles off the north side, which would put that down to 7, and add 9 tiles onto the south, which would make it 15, I think I can do that without bumping into anybody else's perimeter. So you keep everything else the same. And then it will tell you at the bottom, this changes free of charge, because the effective number of tiles of the deed hasn't changed. I've taken it off one direction and put it on the opposite one. So you can resize it, doesn't cost you anything to do. Now, my deed temporarily should extend. How far is it going to go? All the way to here, which means I can now get the benefit of pushing this on deed with shorter timers all the way over here, and then I can just resize it back. Although actually, I want to move that hitching post as well. You're welcome, memers. See, this is one of those things that even people who've been playing a long time, sometimes people are like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Or when people are having a problem where they need to, like, for example, bash some fences that they built in their own perimeter, you can use it to do that as well. So you temporarily extend over some space that you want to take reinforcements off a mine, that you want to take down some fences that you built, stuff like that. Makes it so much easier. You can also use it for some maybe less noble deeds, like for example annexing nearby mission structures. But mostly what I would say it is helpful for is actually just no, we can't play 6, it's a vehicle. What I would say it's helpful for is doing things like just shuffling things a little bit further off your deed, or getting those faster bash timers as mayor for stuff that's in your perimeter. I mean, you can also, and I have done this sometimes, you can also do it and change the number of tiles that it covers. If you're, for example, on a very square deed, you can, going and doing some maths, turn it into temporarily a long, thin deed, with more or less the same number of tiles, sometimes it's hard to get an exact match, and you might end up either losing a little bit of paid for deed or having to pay a few coppers extra for a couple of extra tiles to make the maths work. But if you've got a deed that's got relatively flexible sort of space around it, sort of like, you know, at least 10 tiles in every direction, then that gives you a certain amount of shuffling you can do if you're not packed right up against other people's deeds in order to do this kind of helpful management of space. Annexing mission structures is naughty. Yes, I try not to move mission structures. And if I move them, I try not to move them far, because I don't want to mess up maps and things where they, for example, you know, are ones that people are used to going and visiting for missions. At the point that a mission structure is on your deed, it is no longer active for missions anyway. But so, for example, you know, if you deed next to a particularly nice one, or one that you wanted to have on your deed and it doesn't quite go up to it, you can use it to sort of move it temporarily on deed and just kind of pop it on the corner, align it with a building, something like that. But I would not recommend doing that. Doing that for sort of mission structures that other people have built in places, unless you were deeding over it anyway, in which case, you know, move it as you like on your deed. It's no longer valid anyway. Okay, so I'm in perimeter from here. The other thing that you may or may not know, if you've never tried doing this, it's not where the item is stood that affects your timers, it's where you're stood. So if I move out onto the perimeter, I'm back to the long timer, but all the time that I'm standing on the deed, just over this border, as far as I can push that thing, I get the benefits of being on deed to do it. So let's just shuffle that a little bit further, about as far as I can push it, leave it on the grass. And at least whoever owns this, like, it's still pretty visible from outside ESERT, so it shouldn't be hard for them to find again if they want to. I'm just going to do the same with this hitching post, and I think that's all the stuff here that I couldn't load into a wagon, so then I can resize the deed back. This is locked, which is why I can't just load it into a wagon and move it. If it was unlocked, then I would be able to wagon it away. Will it let me? Oh, actually, I might be able to do this one with placing. I don't know how slow it is to place. Sometimes it's slower to place things than just to push them. I think that might be slower to place than to push, but I wouldn't swear to it. 40 seconds it reckons it's going to take it to get over there. Yeah, slower to place than to push. It can also be quite useful, that resizing deed thing, for if, for example, you were in a shared village, as a mayor, I mean, if you had other people in your village and they built pens in the perimeter for keeping animals or something, and then, like, they stop logging into the game and you don't have access to the locks on those gates, you can use it to temporarily move your deed over the gates so that you can unlock them and then move it back off, and then you can sort of relock the gates and claim ownership of them so that you can then use the gates in your own perimeter. So it's a way around fixing some things like that. Obviously, for stuff like that, theoretically, it could be exploited for bad purposes. Please don't do that, otherwise they might take away our ability to use this for its many very useful purposes. How about I just pop it up alongside? Oh, that's a slope. I hate that it's a slope. Never mind. Let's just line it neatly up over there. Just wait for that timer to run out. Am I? Yeah, I am still within the village. Hello, Ruffle. No sheep around here, I'm afraid. At least I don't think there is. We could do with some goats, couldn't we? I'd like some goats. So when that's done moving, I will resize the deed again back to the span that I had it before. The other thing I will say that this is also quite useful for is if you are somebody like me who should get some, but you've got plenty, you've got enough for all of us. If you're somebody who, like me, likes to get things in Deed Planner so you can actually measure all of the slopes and things rather than doing it manually. This can also be really useful for that. So you can use this to, for example, expand this way, download a village plan, and then expand the other way, download a village plan. And although that doesn't get you that in one big Deed plan that you can just load into Deed Planner, what it does allow you to do is load up those kind of like the different directions into Deed Planner, so you can go and actually look at like what the slopes are there and just sort of get a bit of be able to, you know, get a bird's eye view, move around it, which for me helps an awful lot with understanding kind of actually what spaces I've got. Okay, so with that done, let's go and resize our deed back and we'll swap back to Crim. So resize settlement. We're going to do the same thing again in reverse. So we took 9 off the north and we put them off the south. So if we take 9 off the south, that would put the south back down to 6, and it would put the north back up to 16. Is that right? I guess we'll find out if that's right, because if it tries to charge me, I've done it wrong. Do you know what? I'm second guessing myself now. Let me start again. 9 off the south would put the south at 6. And 9 on the north, yeah, we'll put the north at 16. I did have it right. So we survey. You may have to go and kill some mobs because obviously, you know, mobs will get in the way of you moving the deed. Save the number of guards. This changes free of charge. There you go. And now the settlement is back to the size that it was before. Hasn't cost me anything to do, but it's just made it a little bit easier to do this stuff over here. So I'm going to log Dunedin off and we're going to switch back to Crim. There we go. Right, first jobbed. So if you take over a deed, like if you take over a site where people have been before, that can be quite a useful thing to do first. If you've got wagons with horses attached, you can't just push those, but if it is on your deed, you can put in a ticket and ask a GM to very kindly drop by and move it off your deed. Thanks, Ruffle. We're in Narnia. We are temporarily in Narnia, Tantail. I don't know if that's the name it's going to keep, but the thing is, it's this bit, right? This reminded me of sort of like the descriptions of Cair Paravel, which is sort of like this beautiful, like sandstone-ish kind of sort of like balmy blonde brick castle that's up high at a sort of a confluence of rivers. So that's why I called it Cair Paravel. But interestingly, what I found out, which I did not know when I called it that at 3 a.m. this morning, when I refounded it, this tower up here, this was made by Joel, and Joel had a deed called Cair Paravel on a different server, which I found out by just typing it into Wormnode and seeing if there were any other Cair Paravels around. So that was an unintended, but actually quite a nice sort of, I don't know, bit of synchronicity, I suppose. So yeah, so one of the early things I'll do is clear stuff off the deed and maybe do a little bit of resizing just to get the shape of the terrain around it into Deed Planner. I haven't done it for these spaces here, but if, for example, I thought I might want to expand a little bit more this way or further back, what I could do is I could resize it all in that direction to get eyes on in Deed Planner all of the land behind that tower, for example, and then resize it back again. It's like you trying to get in the wrong knob. Yeah, there's no wardrobe yet. But you know what? Wardrobes are one of my favourite pieces of furniture to hide secret doors with. So if you've ever seen me in Brambleheim, like I sometimes show off one of them in Brambleheim, there is a wardrobe in my sitting room in my archaeology den in Brambleheim that just says something like I don't know, door to Narnia or whatever. And if you go through it, it is actually hiding a door to a secret passage behind. And I'm quite a big fan of like little secret passages and like hidden doorways and things, and wardrobes are a good one. Bookcases are also quite good for those. So that's job 1. Job 2 might be a little bit of surface mining. I don't want to do shitloads of that today, but what I do want to do is I want to see if it's going to be possible to move this cave entrance that was here. I could move it down here, but I wonder if I can move it also across over here. So I need to actually see what's here. Now I have got if I was going to have to dig an awful lot further to find whether or not there was rock down here, I would be tempted to log on my Priest of Magrenon, who is actually here because he's been doing some strong walling for me. Because you can use mole senses if you have a Priest of Magrenon. You can use mole senses to find out how far the rock layer is below where you're standing. So if, for example, I wanted to do it up there, and I have, I've stood him up about there-ish and got him to cast mole senses to see how far this rock layer extends below this dirt-dropped platform. And I think the answer was something like 140 tiles down before I hit rock layer there. So this is mostly dirt. This is dirt leveled, rather than just a little bit of dirt dropped on top of a very steep cliff. So that's good to know. That gives me a certain amount of confidence in being able to terraform and reshape this a little bit. And as I said, down here, the fact that this rock face comes all the way up to here makes me think that somebody has surface mined this bit of a mountain flat in order to make this. So I'm hoping that it's going to be a similar kind of height rock round here, but we'll find out. The first thing that we're going to need to do if we want to surface mine this down at all is dig this stuff, I guess. So we're gonna take away a lot of this lovely ground, and just see exactly where the rock is around here, so that I can sort of make a judgment call about where I might be able to build a boat mine. Because for things like mine entrances and boat mines, you kind of need to plan for those first before you plan any other terraforming around it. There is actually also this. I terraformed this a few weeks ago, even when I didn't have this deeded, just out of interest, because these looked like they would be nice tunnel entrance size things. So I did a teensy bit of surface mining around here, made them nice and straight, and then stuck a couple of mine doors on them. So we've actually got potentially a nice kind of 2-tile walk-in entrance here. I would have to raise the ground for it to be a straight shoot into it, but I may yet take those mine doors off and actually reshape this. I don't know, we'll see how we go. So we've got rock, rock, rock. I imagine probably don't go far down before I hit rock here, but we'll see. Good morning, Cough, how you doing? She says, and then has to dig like 40 tiles down. As you can see, I dug down this side quite recently and hit rock there, so there we go. I didn't actually have to go too far down before I hit rock on that side. So I think that this has probably been like largely shaped around this. This might go down a little bit further, but it's actually this side that I'm interested in more. So let's go and have a play with that one. And also, I think the rock here is not very far down. But let's find out. Because if I want to move it 1 tile closer this way to get me a little bit more of a platform up there, I need to know that the rock under here doesn't just go miles down into the water. I'm doing good, Cough. I've got a brand shiny new laptop that arrived today, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that means that my tech woes are behind me. Oh, I hit rock. I am actually carrying my dredge with me because I figured I would probably have to be doing some bits of dredging in my investigative work today, but we'll see. Might get away without. I noticed that there is a slew of new streamers that have popped up in the last couple of weeks, and I wonder how much of that is to do with the content update. I think the emails about it, Vulcan was saying yesterday that the emails about the content updates have brought a lot of people kind of back to Worm to have a look. I don't know if any of those are also streamers, but I bumped into a couple of Aussies who were like brand new to Worm this past week, streaming earlier, and there were some others as well. So maybe we'll start to see kind of like a more active streaming season again as we come into the autumn. 'Tis a new toy. And honestly, so long as it doesn't give me the trouble the last one did, that would be enough. But it is also an upgrade in several ways, so Worm should be even more stable and more beautiful, we hope, than it was before. But then again, this is Java based, so with all like this is a laptop with 32 gigs of memory in it, which should be plenty for Worm. The previous one that had 16 gigs of memory, Worm used all of it all the time. Like, it's got a GPU that Worm certainly does not need. It tends to be memory and CPU that Worm is hungry for. Worm Online on Twitch has been a sparse selection of streamers, 4 to 5 earlier today. Wow. Okay. See, we are more or less getting kind of the shape that we expected. So, next question is, how far does the rock carry on this way, and how much of this was just dirt dropped up to match it? It's good to hear, isn't it, Ruffle? Yeah, it is good to hear. It is good to hear. And I saw that Prof Lee's back as well, so so I guess there's more activity happening over for the sort of the Portuguese Brazilian community. We already had Chloral streaming, of course, and several others who I've seen sort of like on and off streaming things like Rifts and stuff like that. Okay, so that's rock there. What are we? 10 slope up. I don't mind if the rock is a little way down here, because I couldn't make a mine entrance from there all the way down to below the water. Anyway, that would be too steep to put a mine door on. So I would want to lower this anyway to turn this into a sail-in mine if I were using that tile. And there's rock again. Okay. So I said, what if I made that one a mine entrance but moved it across? So let's see how far this one goes down. I wonder if this also will take me below water. It's me just buggering up these paths, but thankfully they don't really lead anywhere except up onto this platform and back down again. So what I'm trying to do is to buy myself some extra tiles of space in this direction out from this platform. Hit rock again, I'd have to surface mine that down a bit. To buy myself a few extra tiles in this direction so that I can build some platforms kind of down around here. The pigeon has not escaped, you fibber, unless you've been bashing down walls in the manor. Unless you kicked it out a window. Calva keeps threatening to cook my pigeon. My pet. I told him he'd end up in the oven if he wasn't careful. Okay, so we got rock again there. Let's just dig this one down to match. When it comes to surface mining, if you've only got a little bit of surface mining to do, you can just do it with a normal pick.
Slap Calvert?
But
oh, go on then.
I could run all the way over to Thorspring, but I'd have to find him first, and the sod would go into stealth mode. You know it. Do you know what? I regret ever teaching him about stealth mode, because now he uses it all the time just for mischief. He just giggles at me via PM when I'm like, "Where are you?" And he's like, "Hee hee hee." Do you have a pet pigeon, Massa? Back at the manor house. A pigeon. It's a champ pheasant, rather large one. Do I actually want to be digging this bit? I don't know if I do. I suppose I do, because if I want to do a sail-in mine, I need to know how low I can get this land, at least. And if I'm going to have to surface mine some more rock. But yes, what I was saying was, if when you're making yourself a deed, you're going to have to do some surface mining, if you've only got a little bit to do, you can do it with your normal pick. If you've got quite a lot that you're going to have to do, I heartily recommend sending it off for enchanting, and getting a stone strike enchant put on it. So mine has not a like super duper one, but a decent one. It's actually in my tool belt, I think. So for surface mining, I use an adamantine pickaxe because it takes a lot less damage for an awful lot of tinking. It's got a speed rune. Well, it's got a Blessings of the Dark rune on it, so I still get a little bit of extra skill gain, and it's faster. But it's also got Stone Strike cast on it, which means you get many more successes where you actually chip down the rock a little bit. So if you've got any substantial kind of surface mining project, it is well worth getting. It makes a heck of a difference. Because this is adamantine, I don't have it imped as high anymore. It used to be up in the 90s. I don't have it imped as high as I would if it were an iron one. I can't remember if this was gifted to me. I don't think I bought it. So it's the only moon metal tool I've got. But when we do a little bit of surface mining, if you've ever done some, you'll probably see the difference, because it goes much, much faster with Stone Strike on a weapon. The Nutpecker. Wait, that's a Christmas show, right? If you don't put your nuts out, it's not going to peck them. So, you know, keep your tackle to yourself and the pigeon's not going to be a problem for you. Hey, Robbie, you've never noticed a lot of difference with your pick. I really, really notice it. I mean, maybe it's a skill thing. What, because you mean because your skill's so high you take it down quite fast anyway? Because your mining must be insane. What is your mining skill, Robbie? Do tell. Robbie, for anybody who doesn't know, Robbie's one of my alliance mates back on release. Robbie has mined out, hollowed out pretty much the whole of the inside of a mountain. A significant amount, 97-ish. Yeah, my mining is nowhere near that high. So maybe it does make a more of a noticeable difference when you're not getting all the benefits of being super high mining. I think my mining's about 70-ish. Certainly it's worse than my digging. It looks like I'm not going to have any rock layers interfering here. This is all sort of letting me dig kind of without issue. So I suspect they were surface mining down kind of a bit of a mountain that just kind of wrapped around here but didn't really come much further. Like, this is not giving me any trouble. I'm just going to do that one because I don't like leaving it uneven. Oh, I'm so close to the water though. I'm not going to do that one because what I'm trying to do is move it over, and actually it'll be these ones I wanted to dig. So let's try here as well. See if I can see how far the rock comes this way. It might be that it actually rounds off kind of around there and I couldn't move it too far over, but we don't know till we try. I also started the wrong end of this. I should have started higher up because now I'm going to have to climb back up to the next bit. Never mind. There you go. So the rock layer. Do you know what? I'm always kind of excited when I go digging down and finding the rock layer underneath, and you find sometimes what very much feels like evidence of somebody doing sort of sculpted terraforming before that then somebody else has just like dug over the top of. Like, that's a flat border here. It would be interesting to see if by the time we hit rock here, this is also a flat border and actually there is a perfectly mined, surface mined slope hidden underneath all this dirt. Whoop. Let's turn climbing on though. There you go. Look at that. Does that mean that 10 dirts down, I'm going to find rock here as well? Here's hoping. And for anybody who doesn't mind being a little bit risky-bisky with your mining, if you're mining on steep slopes like this, as long as you don't move, you can normally keep mining on 0 stamina for quite a while before you slip down. Sometimes you won't slip down at all. Sometimes the game just sort of catches up with you. But so for surface mining on steep slopes. As long as you're not going to die on the drop when you inevitably do fall down there, you just sort of want to get yourself, yeah, look at that. You just want to get yourself up somewhere high, right on the corner, and then just do not budge an inch and just keep mining, because even with no stamina and slower action timers, it tends to be faster than dropping down and then climbing all the way back up over and over, and it's certainly a lot less faff. So then, is this one likewise just going to take 10 dirts down? It's good news if so, because that should mean I can make us a nice little sail-in mine somewhere over here. Now, I could take it right up to the entrance of this, but I kind of don't want to, because I think that would look pretty ugly, even if we've got, you know, a beautifully kind of like mined slope all the way out to the edge here. I guess it depends how far I'd be willing to actually extend this bit of platform out this way. The one constraint on this deed really is Sept, because start towns, if you've never tried deeding near a start town, you may not know, start towns have huge perimeters. And Sept comes to, well, I'll show you in a second. So I'm not sandwiched up against anybody else's deed in any direction, but I am kind of sandwiched up against Sept on that side. Yeah, look at that. It's a beautiful slope. All lovely and surface mined. I ought to get some stamina back though. Something's attacking a cow. So the Sept perimeter comes up to, I think, about there-ish. So it comes quite a significant way, given that the edge of Sept is where that wall is. The perimeter comes up to just a few tiles beyond the end of this here, which means at the moment, particularly with a 15-tile perimeter, I cannot do any kind of resizing in that direction. But if and when I want to deed more space and take some of those perimeter tiles back, I can take the deed up to, I think, about where that hedge is. I think that marks the line. That's the furthest you can take a deed in this direction, before you are butted up against the Sept perimeter with your minimum 5-tile perimeter. Hey Madoon, how you doing? So, does it matter if I've got rock up here? I'm not sure that it does. I suppose it depends how high I want this platform, but I'm not deciding that right now. But what I am going to want to do is, even if I'm not planning to put a cave entrance here, I'm going to want to reveal the rock face here, because any surface mining I want to do along this line, I need to have rock tile on all adjacent bits to the corner. So we're just going to dig this one down as well, which hopefully will be a match for these. We'll see. My plans for a new deed. So, Koff, this is a little spot just outside of Sept on Exodus. And I have been kind of on and off planning for a little while, kind of hatching plans and ideas for a bit of a sort of pop-up community event site. So I don't mean like for impalongs and things, like those big ones. I mean like for just running little like on-stream, I don't know, competitions, skill-based competitions, obstacle courses, fun stuff like that, races, things, the sort of things where we could be like, we're going to have a mini community event for a couple of hours. And I wanted a space that was going to be close to a portal, nice and accessible for people, and that had some interesting land and terrain around it that would be big enough where I could do things like big obstacle courses or race courses or stuff like that. But also because I'm me and I need to be inspired by a space to invest any amount of time into it, it also needed to be somewhere where I could make something that was really quite interesting looking. So this deed down here, which looks out over the start town and over those lovely mountains and the canal down there, like, is kind of primed for a beautiful big, like, building at the top of the cliff up here, and I'm going to try and extend this ground out a little bit and actually do some interesting sort of terracing with using the new jetties with a sort of, I think, a sloping walkway zigzagging down the front, but also going to do a little bit of work on this route up the side to the tower up there, because this is one of the only easily traversable routes up onto this mountain range. So we're here, basically. We're on this little corner of water here on this little mountain range, and it is also very close to Thule Spring, where I live with Calvert when I'm on Exodus. Ooh, this is a different shape than that one. Look at that. So it does round off a little bit on this corner. That's okay. So it needed to be a deed that was somewhere near where I spend most of my time in Worm anyway. Otherwise, I would struggle to keep up momentum on it. I'm a little bit kind of out of sight is out of mind with so many things. So for me to manage to maintain momentum on projects, I kind of need to be like, somewhere that I can't forget about them, or just get distracted and grasshopper away to something else for months or years. A Crim along. Like, Impalongs are lovely, don't get me wrong. It's just they're an awful lot of work, and I do not have the staying power or the stamina for them, because I work often quite long hours in quite a stressy job. So streaming already takes up quite a lot of my bandwidth, and I really like doing community stuff. But for me to be able to do any kind of community stuff, like we did a Puzzle Labyrinth run before on stream, that was quite fun. I was tempted to do one of those again, actually. I thought it might be quite fun to do another one of those in the run-up to Christmas this year. It depends if there are people who would like to go on a Puzzle Labyrinth run, because it was fun taking people through it on a speed run. But so if I do community stuff, it needs to be kind of like much smaller, more sort of like pocket-sized community events, because those are much more manageable for me, both in terms of sort of energy levels and also attention span. Let's be honest. But I like the challenge of sort of like crafting a new deed space. I am very much a deed builder, as we know, because I've had lots of deeds come and go. And I also tend to, sometimes I just drop deeds down just because I want to see a space, and to like see a space, I like to load it into Deed Planner and be able to get a bird's eye view and move around and actually measure all the slopes and stuff. I have sometimes, like before I really got my head around using Deed Planner, I used to go mapping terrain sort of like by hand, but that is a very slow process, and one that I will happily throw a few silver at to avoid having to do and just have a program do it for me. So at the moment, I'm uglifying this little platform over here because I want to see where the rock face is in order to make some kind of a boat mine in. And the obvious place to do it would have been where there was a mine entrance previously, which was that tile there. Except that because I want to build like leveled, built-on terraces out from this cliff, I wanted to reclaim a few extra tiles of space in this direction. But I think it's going to be doable because we're getting a pretty good sense of the shape of the land. Maybe this tile here would be a good contender. Could turn this into a boat mine, and then I could dirt drop and extend this platform out a little bit further so it's still nested with terrain around it, so that I can build some things like up on these platforms, and maybe down at the ground level around it, and have a sail in boat mine just kind of like in the middle of a bunch of buildings. So I think this tile here is going to be our main contender. So I'm just going to dig a few more of these down and then see what we've got. Somewhere to stream community events sounds fun. Yeah, I know, right? Like, we were talking about all kinds of fun things we could do, like sometimes on our previous streams you'll see like Calvert and I testing out different things. So Like I built a catapult outside of Calvert's Arena, and we were catapulting pumpkins around and trying to work out what you can and can't do with war machines. Because if anybody's ever been to the Delhi Renaissance Festival over on Deliverance, they do catapulting cows over there, and it's super fun. I streamed it earlier this year. If you catch, I can't remember if it was the day 2 or the day 3 stream. I feel like it was the day 3 stream. I was streaming several of the games, including the flying cows, and I was sort of like right down there on the field, like watching cows go flying over my head. There's really good fun stuff to be had in Worm, and we get little pockets of that at things like Impelongs, where there's often lots of games running. But I thought it would be quite nice to be able to do sort of like mini kinds of community events, like just like an hour or so, get together to do some kind of like game or competition, maybe with prizes or maybe just for fun. The sort of thing that you could just sort of schedule into a stream sometime. But for that, I need a deed that's got flexible spaces where I can build cool stuff and adapt it and use it for that purpose. I was looking into whether or not it would be possible to do some kind of food fight thing with the throw mechanics. We've got the Treehouse Micropub over there where we had your tree climbing, and you'll have missed it because it was earlier in the stream. But we discovered that we think some of the changes that they've made, either to collision and pathing, or maybe as a result of the new jetties coming in, means that you no longer fall through the tree in my treehouse. It used to be that you can climb up the treehouse, get on top of the tree, which you generally can't do in Worm, and you could like loiter there for like maybe 5 to 15 seconds before the game would like force you back down onto the ground level. It no longer does, which sort of makes me want to see if I can do some kind of treetop running obstacle course. Probably can't. The danger with these things, of course, is that they might decide at some point that they didn't intend a mechanic to work like that, and then bamf, I can't use that fun thing anymore. But, also one of the other things I like about this site, that I couldn't have done over at Nefarious, which is where I was planning it previously, is because I've got because I've got a mountain behind, and quite a high rock layer. There's mines all the way up that. That also gives me some really, really exciting opportunities for like base jumping inside mines where you don't take damage. So for sort of like Lara Croft style, like fall from heights and like manage your trajectory, sort of like interesting ways to move through mines. And for anybody who saw the stream, Calvert's stream, a few months ago, where we were invited over to Cadence to do the School of Worm challenge, Man and Jane, who invited us over, they got some really cool like puzzles involving like underground mines where you've got to swim under quite low tunnels and things for sections of it, and I thought that was awesome. And I would be able to have a little bit of a play with both like steep mine drops, but also kind of underwater mines on this deed if I wanted to. So lots of potential, and very, very easy to reach for anybody with access to a portal. Tan, you remember the really old Impelongs? Why did you have such a bad time at your first one? Impelongs have evolved a lot over the years. I mean, Impelongs have been going on since before Indie, even. But the kind of all of the extra games and things that get added onto them, I think that's been sort of like a bit of a snowball effect. And we get more and more things that aren't imping happening at Impelongs over the years. So they tend to be much busier events now, I think, than they used to be. I'm going to need to dig this one down as well, because if I'm looking at that tile, I need this to be rock. Cough, do Impelongs happen often on NFI? Yeah, so as Tan says, there's like the Isle of Skye, do them several times a year, but there are other ones as well. On the Southern Freedom Isles, we have them four times a year at least, sometimes 5, but it tends to be a different person hosting in each slot. So you get like the Mardi Gras Impelong over on Xanadu, that's in February. You get the Delhi Renaissance Festival Impelong, that's on Deliverance, that's usually around Easter time. You get the friend along imp along on pristine. That's usually in July in the summertime. For a while we had a Halloween slot imp along. We don't actually have one at the moment. And then at Christmas time we've had the Luna Long on Xanadu, usually November, December time for several years in a row. Shrimpy's announced a Blackmore imp along, which was actually the first imp along I ever went to was a Blackmore imp along. So he's now doing one in December. So we tend to get them dotted across the year, but it's in a different place and different organisers each time. So each one has its own kind of flavour. Whereas, because I think the Northern Freedom Isles imp alongs have been largely dominated by sort of Isle of Skye doing them at quite regular holidays across the year, I suspect you get like it's a more predictable kind with less variance between them, because they've been sort of more singly organised. So Isle of Skye is doing a Halloween one. There you go. But they also do them. I think they also did like an Easter one and also a Christmas one. Like there's sort of the 3 or 4 across the year usually, isn't there? But yeah, you get them on both servers. Water's too deep to dig. Okay, that's why we've stopped. Where's my dredge? So if you're dredging by hand, it is a bit more of a pain in the arse than dredging by boat, because when you dredge in a boat, it goes straight into the boat, whereas when you dredge by hand, you have to keep pulling dirt out because your dredge will only hold a maximum of 2. But it is still, if you've only got a little bit of dredging to do, less of a faff than trying to move your boat over to, you know, an awkward corner. How far am I going to have to go to turn that to rock, though? That's the question. I also just need to keep a bit of an eye on my stamina, because I'm going to end up with a slope I can't climb out of if I'm not careful. Galandria, you normally have a Christmas party with games like archery and fishing. Yeah, yeah. It's just like it's just great fun. It's like and people do have those kinds of like mini sort of like competitions, sometimes within alliances and stuff, or you know, other kind of like mini events like that among friendship groups. Let's just chuck that over there. How am I doing? I'm all right. Oh, my dredge is full. And you got a Christmas one at Dr. J's Deed on NFI. Nice. Okay, that's good. It's good that you're getting some more variety. One of the things that I quite like about the Southern Freedom Isles ones is they've all got a different flavour. They've all got different sort of games that are traditional for that particular imp along, or were sort of first made popular at that imp along. Damn it. I really hope I'm not about to find that I can't actually turn this to rock, because it's deeper than I can dig. Because that would kind of put pay to my using that tile for my boat mine entrance. Just keep digging, see what we can see. There we go. All right, that was not too terrible. So that's the shape of the rock ground there. This is not high enough to turn into a boat mine entrance. I want it a little bit higher up than that. But that one, that would be 20, 40. Is that? Okay, that's as deep as I can dig, which means that's gnar depth. As deep as you can dig in the water without a dredge is enough water depth for you to take gnars and sailboats and rowboats along, which is what I'm after really for a boat mine. I'm not looking for a deep draft one, because Exodus is not friendly to deep draft boats at all. So we're looking at surface mining this tile down, which means I'm just going to also need to find the rock layer on this tile so that we can make a sail in boat mine of that. There we go, that was easy. So we can make a sail in boat mine of this tile, and then I can flesh the other land out around it. And I probably won't cover this up again straight away, because although I probably want to raise the land around it, I want to do a bit of thinking about it first before I go tidying up any of these spiky bits, because I might just be raising the land around them anyway. So I'm going to switch to my adamantine stone strike tunnel tapper. And we're going to surface mine this down a little bit. Massa, you were so excited for the Isle of Skye one, but it's NFI. But you can still go to it. It just means that you can't get stuff imped there that you can bring back to SFI. But we had quite a few NFI players come to some of the Southern Freedom Isles ones this year. And they, obviously they come without stuff, but it's quite nice. It's a nice opportunity to go and see the community on another server, even if you're not getting stuff imped for yourself, because you're not going to be spending time on that server. Impalongs tend to be just really, really nice kind of community events to go and hang out at and meet people and play fun games and stuff like that. So I think there's value in going to them, even if you don't have stuff on that server to imp. You can still skill up over there and lend your skills helping to imp things up if people will lend you or make an imp up for you some imping tools. You can still go play in the games and hang out, and I just like Impalongs have got a really nice kind of vibe for just hanging out and chilling and chatting, which I like. And you can get that on any of the clusters. Oh fuck, I'm tunneling. Whoops. That's me not paying close attention to which number I'm pressing. That was nearly very awkward. I might have had to get out my Mag Priest sooner than I expected to. There we go. I'm glad I noticed that sooner rather than later, or that would have been a whole load of wasted actions. You rarely bother getting your stuff imped up even if you're on the right cluster, Matty. You've never even left your server, Massa? Well, maybe you should. It took Madoon an awful long time to leave his. Now he goes to all sorts of events. Let's make sure. Yeah, I am still mining. Good. Do you have a boat, Massa? Like, are you somebody who sails about on your server? Or do you live quite sort of inland and therefore never had a reason to go? You just went straight from Guidance to Pristine and you haven't left yet. That's fair. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful stuff to see on Pristine. My first year and a half in Worm, I was limited where I could go anyway, because I came into Worm with the launch of a new couple of servers and they were separate from the rest. You couldn't travel between them at the time. But so my first sort of like year and a half in Worm, I did not leave my server. And then I think I travelled, when they opened up Pristine and Release and connected them to the other servers on the cluster, I did take a sailboat and went to visit. I think I was trying to visit Deliverance, and it was quite a traumatic experience, because back then we didn't have plot course. So back then, if you wanted to travel between servers, you had to do it in the direction that these arrows go. So I had to sail off this side of Release, and then I had to sail all the way across Xanadu to be able to get to Deliverance. It was hours. It was awful. I was like, God, I am not a sailor. I do not like this form of travel. And it was years before I was willing to actually go travelling again, whereas now I do it all the time. I travel all over all the servers. Even before we had portals, I sail everywhere. I love exploring other servers. But it took me a while to get over that initial shock. And plot course helped a great deal. Waffle, waffle, waffle. Hello, Bun. And she waffled away. I don't know why he comes here to watch me waffle. All he does is whinge about me waffling, but he does keep coming. How you doing, Bun? I thought you were away this weekend, Bun. How's your weekend been? Bun's deciding whether or not he wants to come out treasure hunting with me next weekend. I might waffle too much for him. So the goal here is to get this mined down so it's flat with this, because that will then make it at a depth where I can sail in, and it will get us a nice manageable slope on which to stick a mine door. And I think you can put a mine door on anything up to, oh my god, what is it? Is it like 70, 80? Is it 90? 90. 90 is the maximum slope of a tunnel entrance if you want to be able to put a mine door on it, which I do. The other reason to leave this bit over here for a while and think about it is I could, if I wanted to, have a 2-tile wide sail-in mine. It's not really necessary, given that I'm not making a deep draft one. If I was making one for deep draft boats to sail into, then you'd want it to be 2 tiles wide, because some boats are wider, a couple of tiles wide, but all of the shallow draft boats fit, like they go just fine into a 1 tile wide boat mine. Mobile keyboard sucks. You'd be there waffling if you could. Oh, Bunny, you are you sort of parachuting in on a tablet or your mobile or something to watch the stream? Well, thank you for that. Are you trying to escape from a day of busy peopling? Some boats have junk in their trunk. Yes, they do. Oh, fuck. I wasn't paying attention, was I? Whoops! That's fine. I'll fix that in a minute. I was meant to be going till I was level, but apparently I went way past it. Yay for Stone Strike! Let's try again. Thankfully, I did bring some concrete with me so that when I am distracted and I overmine,
right?
It's fixable. It is important to note, though, that if you are mining underwater or mining to make a tunnel entrance, you've got to be careful how deep you go underwater, because you can only use concrete down to a certain depth. It is possible to surface mine down below the water past a depth that you can fix it if you mine too far. So if you're doing anything tricky like that, I recommend giving it your full attention and not doing what I'm doing and just half paying attention while you waffle. Good night, Calvert. I can feel my voice struggling already, so to be honest, this is probably not going to be a terribly late stream for me tonight either. Like, I've had quite a tiring day, and Calvert and I were up till... What time did we finish stream yesterday? Like 1:40, 1:45 maybe? It was a late one, even for us. And I've kind of been going and going and going all afternoon trying to get this new laptop set up. So I'm kind of knackered. And we're streaming again on Monday because we've got our epic adventures. Whilst I've got a few of you here, though, and whilst I'm doing some very boring work, it might be a good time for a news screen, because it's kind of sort of worm news. But speaking of me having just dropped a deed in the early hours of this morning after Calvert and I finished our stream, whoops, I'm going to start sliding. My news screen is me news, not worm news. If anybody's interested in adopting a lovely little island deed on release, I am considering letting go of one of mine, which I built with the best intentions last year, but I'm just not making good use of it. If you're in the Coterie channel, if you search for the Gloaming Sanctum, you'll see I posted up a little YouTube video looking around it. Unfortunately, I didn't do that YouTube video before I took all of the lights and the furniture down and things. Because it would have been a nicer one if I did, but it's a lovely little island that I dirt dropped an island in an ocean in release, at the specific point where I thought I could get the very best sunrises and sunsets. So the sun sets between two beautiful land masses over the water, and it rises over a lovely valley to the north. It's got an infinity pool on the front. It's got shitloads of enchanted trees, mostly willows and a few others, sunken down into the water. So you've got beautiful kind of slopes off the edge of the island. And it's got a couple of houses built off it with some nice sky watching platforms up high and balconies on the bedrooms and things like that, and a sun porch on the north side. But anyway, so there's a little kind of YouTube just walk around of it in the coterie Discord. And I suppose it would be helpful, wouldn't it, if for anybody who isn't in the coterie Discord, if you want to go and have a look, I could pop a link somewhere for it. Let me just go and create a link. Map. Linky link. My brain's not braining. Where's my server links? Would help if I was in the coterie channel, wouldn't it? Let's try that again. Invite people. There we go. Right, there's a 7-day link that I'm going to drop in just there. So it's a very pretty little island deed. If anybody wants to adopt one, it's sort of, I was going to let it drop, and then I also considered selling it to a stranger, but I can't quite bring myself to do that. So I'm giving people a few days to see if anybody would like to give it a good home, whilst I also chew over it and make sure that I am very definitely ready to let it go. So if you've ever wanted a little, island base, it is proper hermity, despite not being up a mountain. I also specifically built it and placed it and measured that it wasn't within the local of any rideable terrain on the mainland around it. So people can sail through your local, but you shouldn't get people just sort of like traveling around on the roads being in your local. It is sort of properly in the middle of the ocean. And there's a little bit more information about it in the coterie channel as well, but also I can drop a little pin on Wormnode for anybody that'd like to go and have a nose about it. Like to go and have a nose about themselves, because I have made the buildings and the gates all open for anybody in the Freedom Isles, so that people could go and have a look if they want to. It is over there. You'll take it, but bloody Wormnode links. Right, you won't be able to click on that because it doesn't like the commas that Wormnode puts in for the coordinates. But if you just copy and paste that whole string, you can go and see where it is. There's a few people who have said that they might be interested in things. I've said that I will give it a few days so that everybody gets a chance to go and have a look if they want to, and throw their hat into the ring if they're interested. But it would be nice if it got a home rather than just was left to rot. Right. Have I done it again? No, I haven't. We're fine. So, back to the game. I have not mined too far down yet. Still got 8 to go. But you'd thrash it. What do you mean you'd thrash it? You found Bun's pristine deed another grumpy outpost. You'd make it into Porco Rosso's hideout, I see. It did take a lot of dirt. I can't remember now how much. I feel like it was somewhere between 40 and 70,000 dirt. It was a lot. It was a lot to drop that island. But, labour of love and all. Four left. Nope, that's the tunnel action. God. You shouldn't let me surface mine when I'm tired. Who let me do this? I'm going to have to concrete that side up a little bit. Then I can tunnel. Also, I suppose I could decide if I might want to concrete this any higher, but to be honest, I think a 40... What's that, a 47? Oh no, that's because I dug too deep. It should be a 40 slope, I think. Which is a decent sized one. I'm going to run out of drinks as well. Normally I have 3 lined up and I don't get through them. Today I had 2 lined up And I've got through both of them. 2 left to go. One. There it goes. So it'll be 40. Might actually, I'm kind of tempted to lift it a little bit. But let's, first of all, let's concrete up the mistake that I made. But it's not ideal. You want stone on. Oh, what, for the island? You mean, Bun? Yeah, there's no mine there. There's no rock layer to speak of. Concrete fixes all problems unless, as I say, you were mining so deep into the water that you can't place concrete that deep. That's when it gets tricksy. Probably don't need all that, but it won't hurt us to take it anyway. Ah, we got Coloral in local. I wonder if he's also out streaming. Because he's on YouTube rather than Twitch, I don't get notifications through Twitch when he streams. So it was this one, wasn't it? So we need to go 7 back up. And this is how you fix your surface mining problems, if it's not too deep in the water, with concrete. God bless concrete. Mm-hmm. 2 more. Right, bear with me a second. There we go. So that's now got us a flat border deep enough to sail boats into. Don't want to flatten, hang on. What I did want to do was just, yeah, as long as you've got the water is too deep to dig here, you know you're deep enough for shallow draft boats to go in, basically. But I think I would like it to be a taller mine entrance than that, so I think I'm going to raise these ones a little bit. So it's going to be the easiest way. Let's get up that side since I'm carrying a shed load of concrete. Calora's out visiting some friends. More or less a deed just to have a deed for friend along. What? This is on release, Bun, not on pristine. If you mistook which one it was on. Oh, are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about the one that Massa found on pristine. Gotcha. A deed to have a deed for the friend along. What? So you can, because you don't really tend to take animals away from the friend along much. Like I sometimes have had deeds on servers near impalongs, so I've got somewhere to temporarily ferry creatures to. I'm sure there's other reasons why people might want to have a deed on an impalong server, but my one is mostly down to animals. So how much have we got? Not a load. Let's pull it up by 10. Maybe 10 will do. What do you mean the concrete would only flow away? Oh, you fucker. Is it not going to let me do that because now we're over a 40 slope? Damn it. So actually I should have raised this before I mined down. And presumably it's not going to let me do another one there. To brand animals. Oh yeah, brand animals and deed bonus. Yeah, that makes sense. Do I care enough to raise this a couple, to raise that a couple. What would it cost me? 4, 8, 16? Nah, I don't think I care enough. Right, it's just going to have to be that height then. So we're going to pop this back in, and we're going to tap ourselves a tunnel. Now, the other thing that I should have checked before I boldly decided that this is where my my tunnel entrance was going to be was that this rock layer persists all the way back here, but I think it probably does. But just in case, tell you what, for anybody who's never used mole sensors, we're going to go and do that just to check that the rock layer does indeed carry on through, because what I don't want to do is go and make a boat mine entrance and then find a few tiles back that the rock actually curves round into the cliffside, and then suddenly I'm hitting dirt or something. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with the D donor, and I'm going to switch to another toon so I can show you how this bit works. So let's log Aramis on. There he is. We're going to close Crim, and hopefully Aramis should pop up. There he is. So this is my Magrenon priest. Mostly he's here for strongwalling, and he is my portal ping priest, because since we got portals, a portal ping priest is a luxury, which once I had experienced it, I was like, no, he's going to have to be perma premium now, because he's just too useful as a portal ping priest. But sometimes he also strongwalls. What am I looking for? Channeling. He actually has got enough for 1 mole senses, but if I need more, I might have to swallow some gems. So I'm going to, on my Magrenon priest, who is also not a Crim lookalike. Look, he's a boy. He's got a beard and everything, but he's in red. What I'm going to do on my mag priest is I'm just going to go and make sure that this rock layer continues at a decent height back past here. Portal ping, yeah. So cough, a portal ping. I mean, I call them portal ping priests. I don't know what anybody else calls them, but basically, if you have a priest who has made it to 100 faith, they can summon soul. So what I tend to do is I have a priest back at my home deed on Brambleheim, although I could do without her there, to be honest, because I've got enough karma that I can use karma to town portal. But so when I want to swap between Release and Exodus, which is where my 2 main deeds are, I'll go to the portal here, step through it, either get summoned to Brambleheim by my foe priest if she happens to be there at the time, or I will use karma to town portal there. And when I'm ready to come back, Aramis, who just sits at a portal on Release, but he can of course cross through to any server to do this, he will just be at the portal at whichever town, whichever server I'm currently on, and he will summon me back to the portal so I can just step through and carry back on again. And because Thorspring is just like a short run over there, it's super close to this portal. I don't need portal pinging to and from here. I only need portal pinging from my Release one. But it also means that if, for example, I go visiting other servers or something, if I haven't taken a boat there, like if I go running around places on foot or something like that, or if I need to get back from somewhere in a hurry, like from a slaying or something, and I don't want to faff around with border crossings, I can just portal ping, i.e. summon myself back to the portal on that server, step through it, and then lo and behold, I'm back home on Exodus within like a 5-minute run. So it's super convenient, but it is also a luxury because it means having a priest premiumed and sat at a portal town for most of their time. But right now, he's going to do more than just Strongwall and Summon. He is going to use Mole Senses. Now, I could use it on every tile here, but given that I know where the rock layer is there, it's probably a fairly safe assumption that it's going to be at a similar level here. It might not be back here, though, so let's try on this corner. For Mole Senses will tell you how far the rock layer is below you, it'll tell you in meters rather than dirts, but that's okay because 10 dirts is about equivalent to a meter. So you want to be standing on a corner because it much like with terraforming and digging and stuff, it works in dirt depths from corners. So from here, he's going to use mole senses, and we're going to see how far below us it tells us the rock layer is. I am hoping, based on this one, that it's going to be like maybe 20 to 30 dirts down at most. This is 100 slope, so we'll see what it says. Good night, Moomin. Yeah, like it's like a personal portal, basically. It's just, you know, for the small cost of having a priest premiumed. There you go. So this is saying the rock is less than 2 meters below me, so less than 20 dirts down. From this point, there is more rock, which is good because my mine is going to open 30, what's that? So 20, 40, like almost 70 down. So I'm well clear. I should be able to tunnel all the way through here. And I'm not going to suddenly hit a bit where actually the ceiling isn't high enough. And I could, I mean, likewise, I was making an assumption about this corner. I've tested that corner. I could test that one as well, but likewise, you don't tend to get natural formations of rock outside of like cliff faces where you get that steep drop off. They tend to be sort of like a slightly more rounded shape. Sometimes you get caught out. So I think it's probably a fairly safe assumption that if the rock layer is only 20 dirts down from here, it's not going to suddenly be 70 dirts down on here or here. Now, I've tested right out on this very edge because I know that all of this here is rock. And so what I was worried was that some of this section here might just be dirt dropped up to the level to match. So even though my entrance is going to be under this one, I tested out there because if there's rock there, there's almost certainly going to be rock at a similar level under here. So I think that's probably a safe enough bet for me to now make a tunnel here and be able to tunnel all the way through. Now, what this doesn't do, and I am running a little bit of a risk in, is after all of this, I might find that this right here is actually an ore vein under the surface, in which case there's fuck all I can do about that, except try and do my tunnel entrance next door instead, but I'd rather not. And you can sort of prospect to find out what's nearby, and it would tell you sandstone and lead nearby. Let's hope they're not one of these tiles, because if they are, I've got a mining party ahead of me. But you know what? I guess we're just going to find out. So let's log Aramis off. Actually, let's not log him off for now. Let's going to leave him quietly regaining favour in the background. But let's switch back to Crim and go and make ourselves a tunnel entrance. Good night, Bun. I'll sit here in the loo all night. Bless you. Good night, Bun. Right, so Crim still on her... I am tired, I'm feeling it now. Still on her adamantine pickaxe on my tunnel tapper. We're going to move this dirt out of the way. Let's just put it up too far away. All right, let's put it on that one. Move the dirt off. Make sure I've got the right tile, which I do. Right, let's make a tunnel. 3. Now, I haven't dug this too deep for this, have I? So what's going to happen is I'm going to make a tunnel, and when you make a tunnel entrance, it always puts you on a 20 slope down. So initially, this is going to make this water much deeper than I want it to make us. But that's why, the other reason why I've got a mag priest here. So if you've ever seen, Bun will come and mine on Monday. Oh, you're on, Bun. So if you've never done much of, whoops, no, that's mining. Let's be careful. If you've never done much of sort of tunneling or making mines yourself, and you've wondered how people get those lovely flat entrances straight into mines, the answer is it might be concrete. People can use concrete to do that, but if you're lucky enough to have a mag priest, the easier way to do it is to make your tunnel into the mountain. It'll put you down a 20 slope on the first one. You mine back up 20 slopes on the next one, so you're back up on a level. And then from inside the mine, you strong wall it closed and mine your way back out in a straight line. And then voila, you have a tunnel entrance that is on the flat. Yeah, but which Monday? Hello, Parser. How you doing? Maybe it's Mag. So you're looking for around 10 shards to make a tunnel. I'm nearly there. And when you hit sort of 10-ish shards, it will start telling you you're going to make a tunnel soon. Come on. Also, I should eat and drink something. We're up to 11. Is it not 10? I know there's always a little bit of variance in it. I'm questioning myself now. Oh, I see. It's actually after the number of actions. So you normally get to about 9 or 10 shards. But because this is a stone strike pick, I probably will get more shards out of it before I've actually hit my 50-ish actions. It's about the same that it takes you to mine out a rock tile in a mine. Basically, that's what it takes you to do a tunnel, to create a tunnel entrance, depending on your mining skill, Parser. Yeah, I'm assuming it's stone strike doing the difference, but it might be my mining skill. My mining's only 70 something, I think. Ooh, do I not have function keys on this exciting new laptop of mine? Let's have a look. Right, I can't be asked to work out how to enable. Although, or can I? There we go. What is my mining? 77. Okay, bit more than 70, but not by much. But yeah, it's about 50 actions, 51 actions, I think, to and change to make a tunnel entrance. But as I say, this picker's got stone strike, so that might also affect how many shards I get out of it before I make a tunnel. You can lava it too. I wouldn't know how to lava it, Buns. There you go. There's another way to make a flat entrance. Oh, you mean like using erupt and freeze? Yeah, it's not something I have any experience of at all, so I can't tell you about how to do that. But Bun could. There we go. I'm now getting the you will soon create an entrance. Yeah, only 77. Now, you won't know until you step inside. Oh, there's the sandstone. You won't know till you step inside where the ore veins actually are, because you can't always see them from outside, but that was lucky. Now that I am in a mine, though, now I can actually use. Oh, you fucker. Or not. I'm gonna have to concrete it up. Lucky unless I wanted a 2 wide entrance, yes. Is that going to be too deep for me to concrete as well? Am I going to need to come back at this another way? How deep can you concrete? Let's have a look. Thankfully, if you have a priest, it is much, much easier to fix mining mess-ups thanks to Strongwall. You can use things like shaker orbs from the shop, but that is a really expensive way to do it. So if you don't have a mag priest yourself, and you need to fix something like this, you're probably better asking around and seeing if you can hire one, or better yet, find a friendly one who'll come and just do a bit of strongwalling for you in exchange for food and appreciation. You know, some folks have made some interesting spikes with Erupt. Yeah. So is this going to be concretable? No, it's not. Right, we're going to have to do this a different way. God damn it. So let's start Aramis strongwalling, because strongwall takes a while. It's quite a long cast. Use one of those. Whoops. Let's tab back to Crim and not get her crawling her way into the water with a load of concrete. Okay, so Aramis starts strongwalling. We're going to have to close this up and actually raise it up out of the water some more. So maybe I should have cared enough to raise it a bit so that I could raise the height of the entrance a little bit. Strongwall, which is a 3-minute cast. So we're just going to watch him stand there reclosing that entrance. Waits to watch me drown from lack of stamina. Cool, that's a bit of Schadenfreude there. So how deep? I suppose the other thing I could do, there is another way to do this rather than strongwalling it closed. My other option is, having made this here, I would still need to strongwall it closed, but what I could do is I could mine in here and path round this sandstone tile, but I'm trusting that I then don't encounter any other ores on the journey round. And I'd need to just do a little bit of measuring to make sure I get the floor right. I wonder if that might be an easier way to do it rather than raising this and faffing around with mining it back down while I've got a toon inside it. That might be easier. Probably not something to do on stream though, because although Crim is a really fast miner, like I've got some nice fast. I'm a 3 picks person. I'm carrying like 3 picks on me at any one time. So I've got, what have we got? We've got my 108 Blessings of the Dark, quality 90 rare ore hoarder. I think actually I might be down to 2 picks. No, I'm not down to 2 picks. My Skiller is also a rare. I can tunnel my way through a mine quite fast. Nothing about this so far seems easy or fast. No. And I mean, surface mining and making tunnels is fiddly, like it isn't fast. But I think it might be faster and easier to judge and do it right, to tunnel out from the inside, than to concrete this up enough so that the 20 slope down when I tunnel doesn't make it unmineable. And then you've got to tunnel at least a couple of tiles in, strongwall it all closed behind you, then on the outside, mine it back down to the correct depth so that you come out at the correct depth from the inside. That is more faff in a way than just tunneling around here, which I know I can do to get out and round. And if I open up a tunnel here and get back into the mountainside, I can also, once I'm inside, do a quick prospect and analyse to make sure I'm not going to be hitting any other ore veins on the way round. It's definitely not something to do on stream when I'm this tired, though. I think that's something to do, like, the next day. Maybe that's a tomorrow job. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make myself a nice boat mine entrance there, and then the next time that I'm streaming on Exodus, I'm going to do that thing I always do where I'm just going to sail past it, and I'm going to be like, and there's this thing I was doing on stream the other day, only look, now I've done it right. So that's still going to be our mine entrance. We're just going to come at it a different way. I'm going to tunnel into this one. I'm going to go in, round, back on myself and lower the floor first so that I get down to this depth, which is a deep enough draft for boats. And then when I'm down to that depth, I'm just going to tunnel in a straight line and it will open a flat mine entrance if I've measured it right when I come back out. And that will be less strong walling and in a way probably less faff, even though I have to mine a little bit further than trying to do it this way, in and out and in and out. But there you go. We learned something. So having made a nice big ugly mess of all of that, was there anything else that I desperately wanted to do today? I was tempted to go dirt dropping. And by dirt, I don't actually mean dirt dropping. Let me show you. I want to bring that that walkway up there further out. I'm not going to do it right now because my voice is going and my brain's not braining terribly well, but I can tell you how I'm going to do it for anybody who's been trying to get their head around ways to make paths down mountainsides on steep slopes. It's a bit different if you're surface mining, obviously, because then you've got to reveal rock face on all sides around a single corner in order to be able to surface mine it down. But if you are, for example, trying to dirt drop a path, you'll find if you're doing it with the dropping method, you're losing loads and loads of dirt, which you then have to go and dig back down. And it would be fine somewhere like here because it's not falling far before it's onto flattish terrain where I could dig it back down. But if I was trying to do it, for example, here, the dirt would slope its way all the way out to here. It would cost me hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dirt to do it that way. So you don't do it by dirt dropping when you're on a slope like that. The way to do it, you could watch me all day asking questions. Yeah, thank you. I take that as a compliment. So the way to do it up here, like I am technically off deed here, but that's all right. I don't actually need to be on deed for any kind of bonuses to these actions. Let's take down this hedge so that we can see what we're doing. Probably should have drunk something down there first, shouldn't I? This tile is flat, which is good. It's helpful when there's already a flat tile to start from that you don't have to flatten yourself. So you need to make sure, first of all, let's turn climb on. You need to make sure that you haven't got trees and bushes on more than two of the tiles on any corner that you're going to dig. So I could do it with like a tree here and a bush there. I couldn't do it with trees on all three. That whatever you're doing, whether you're digging or whether you're raising or whatever else, it won't let you modify the terrain if there's too many things crowding that corner. But we've got a 99 slope down there, so if I were trying to raise this out a couple of tiles further to take this slope further down, by dirt dropping, I would have to use an awful lot more dirt to get there. But instead, what you want to do is you want to level from a flat plane. So you're going to need dirt in your inventory. I'm not going to do it all now, but I'll show you because I should have a little bit of dirt in here. Let's close that. You still need to make sure that you are able to modify the level of slope that you're working on. So the level of slope that you can dig in is 3 times your digging skill, I think. So for Crim, that's like 260 something or 250 something. What's my digging? Digging. Where is it? There it is. So my digging is 88.69. I don't know if it rounds up. I tend to just assume that it doesn't when I'm counting decimals. That means that I can dig in slopes of up to 264. So this one here, this 99 slope, not a problem. Just check the one on the other side as well, but that should also not be a problem. Let's turn climb off because climb and dirt is making me very slow. 145, so still well within. But from a flat one, instead of dirt dropping and losing loads of dirt, what you instead want to do is get your shovel out, try not to fall down the slope, and you want to try and level up. Although it's telling me I can't because there's a hedge here, so first I just need to chop this hedge down. Thankfully, hedges go down fast with a hatchet. So let's try again. Got dirt in my inventory. Then if I level, it's going to start adding dirt just to those corners to bring it up, and it no longer cares if I raise it past 40 slopes. And that's the difference between leveling up versus dirt dropping down. If you dirt drop, as soon as it hits a 40 slope, it'll start passing your dirt onto the next tile over, so that you never get more than a 40 slope anywhere around it, and it just spreads out and out and out. Whereas leveling, you can level it right up without wasting any extra dirt. You just need to keep topping up the dirt in your inventory. And because there are 2 tiles lower than me, it's taking dirt 2 at a time. You can also do this diagonally, so I could do this exact same thing onto that slope just there, diagonally off this flat tile. In that case, it would be taking 3 dirt at a time from my inventory. So that's how leveling works if you've never really kind of gotten your head around leveling for terraforming. So you just have to keep topping up your inventory, basically. And it will slowly raise these up until this one is the same height as this. Now, while Crim's just doing that in the background, I have got one more thing I'm going to show you, because I also have Deed Planner open in the background. So just give me 1 second. So let's open up Deed Planner, and if I turn that one on, da-da-da. So this is a Deed Planner look at that site, what I've done here is I've tested what that would look like if I brought that slope out. So at the moment, the current one, this tile that I'm standing on at the moment and leveling from, that's a flat tile here. So, wait, have I got, let's turn off respect original slopes. So currently I'm on a tile here that is flat like this. In order to make this bit here, I want to carry it on 2 further down. I can't just raise that one that I am currently raising up to a slope, because then I don't have a flat slope to work from. So the way that I have to do it is by, from this flat slope, I'm going to raise this tile here to also be a flat slope. And then when I've done that, without dirt dropping anything, I can then drop both of these down. I've just done something funny with the, hang on, there we go. Then when I've got 2 flat slopes, then I can safely dig down this by 20 tiles. So what were we on? 43? 43? 643? So then I can safely dig these down, because you can dig down in a slope you just can't raise by dirt dropping without losing loads of dirt. So then I would dig this one down to a 623, i.e. dig it down by 20 to continue on this slope, which is a 20 tile slope, 663, 643, 623. Then I would dig down these 2 corners that I have just raised to match, and then I've got another flat tile with which to raise this one up to this level. So that's how you can then extend a slope out. You have to do it by essentially making yourself a new flat tile to work from and then digging it back down a little bit, so that at the end of it, instead of this path ending here, the path will actually come 2 tiles further out, which is a subtle but important distinction, because it's the difference between this path ending awkwardly, like somewhere up here and wrapping around the corner, versus this path getting just a little bit lower down before it doglegs around the corner, and then this lovely 20 slope will take me down to a lower point with a much more manageable point where I can make a platform without going and terraforming all of this slope to match. So then that will get me a nice straight path down to here to line up with that tower, and I can then carry on a straight path and curve it in and just gain a little bit of space here, because at the moment that platform that I was looking at is kind of, this dirt is actually higher across all of here, and it's kind of like a little bit messy. This will give me a larger, longer, flat space with a really nice curve down onto it. Tantale, you never seen this side of Deed Planner before? Well, so is that because you don't use Deed Planner at all, or is that because you use the older version of Deed Planner that has bridges. This version doesn't, but the two of them work really quite differently. Calvert uses the other version of Deed Planner. I cannot get my head around it. I'm so used to this one, so I just suffer without bridges. So that's what that will look like. That's what I'm going to terraform that out to change. So I'm going to use a load of dirt to do this, but nowhere near as much dirt as if I was trying to do it with dirt dropping, basically. So that's what's going to happen there. And then I can make this land here more shapely, and I will have a much cleaner, nicer slope down that I can use to connect this route here. And a nice flat space over there. And where I was talking about maybe doing a kind of zigzag terracing down here, this slope doesn't currently exist on the terrain that we're looking at. This is just, I think you've got a little bit of land that's kind of up to about here, and then a steep drop, which is too steep, like it's beyond my 265 tiles or whatever, so it's not terrain that I could modify. As in, it's not terrain that I could raise up to get an extra tile in this direction. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to terraform this down and hope that I don't have to surface mine. I'm going to have to go doing some mole senses to make sure first, but I think that this is probably all dirt dropped. I'm going to make a slope down here to this point, and from here, I think, was that the right one? From this point, then, I can build a platform jetty on this slope, if I want to, and either gate leg a bridge down that way, or what I will probably do, if I successfully manage to gain a couple of extra tiles there, I'll actually take this a couple of slopes further along, like, say, I'm not actually measuring to the 20s, so it might actually be a little bit messy, but if I brought this a few more down, then what I could do is take all of these tiles and actually bring these up to a level where I can have a terraced platform that I build on. So 126, 119. So we probably want to match it to this one, because it would be a bitch to try and change that slope. So we could bring a bunch of these up to here, which gives me just a little bit of a platform that I can build buildings on. And then if I build my platform off the front of this slope, then I can have my bridge connecting down to the floor down there, which would give this a sort of like a slant in that direction across the front, and another route up to the top, kind of level with the boat dock. I mean, I might do it a little bit more tidily than I've just kind of just shown it off there, but so you kind of get the picture. So that gives me sort of like a route up this side, a route up that side, and I can still make use of this nice little kind of like double mine entrance into the mountainside if I want to. And once I've got my boat mine in here at about this kind of height, I could also then afford to drop this platform down a little bit and make a gentler slope up towards this one if I want to, or I might keep it flat and actually have some buildings here as a platform. So anyway, there you go. There's a sort of like a little bit of a look around what it might look like in Deed Planner. But I'm not going to pull all this up right now, but that is how you do it basically. So I would be leveling this up until it's flat, and then with 2 flat tiles, then I could dig down these 2 corners, dig down those 2 corners, both just down 20, and then work from that flat tile to pull the next one out and up with a new slope here. So look at that fog. Well, I was going to go and show you that where that slope would be, but I have to say you can't see shit now. The fog is so thick. But this is the platform that I was talking about. So as you can see at the moment, if I get my shovel out, it's kind of flattish in places, but then also actually goes like it's not flat along here. It's sort of like a bit of a gentle uppy downy slope. So the plan that I'm talking about will then take this a few tiles back that way and flatten all of this out to this level, so that I get a bigger space here to build with. And that tile that I said I couldn't modify up to match the platform is here. So instead, I could dig out and do a slope down here for that cut across the front. Look, do you know what? It's so foggy. I can't even see the water. Oh, I can just about see the water and the tiles below. Look at that. Okay. But yes, there you go. There's a little bit of prep that goes into the start of a deed thing. So hopefully some I don't know, insight into the ways that other people do their deed planning. And if you didn't see the deed resizing trick that I did at the start, maybe go back and catch the beginning, like half hour of stream. I can't remember exactly what point in the stream I did it, because it's probably going to be news to some other people besides me, because I encounter people all the time who are like, I didn't know you could do that to manage the land and the space around your deed, and it is really helpful. So I'm going to leave this very unsightly mess here for a few days. I hate leaving a mess like this. Like, I'll clean up the dirt, but I don't like leaving, like, pockmarked terrain. So it's not going to be like this for long. Probably tomorrow, or early in the week, I'll go and mine my way around, make sure I make this boat mine, and then tidy up this space around here a little bit so that it is back to looking, you know, all right. I especially hate, like, little divots in the water. Blech. Do you know, like... But I can't see anything now. My voice is very, very much going, and I'm brain tired, and we're streaming again on Monday evening for more epic adventures. So I'm going to call it a night there, I think. So thank you for coming and hanging out with me on what is, I appreciate, not the most riveting watch of a stream, because terraforming is not much fun to watch and satisfying to do, but not exactly entertaining to do. For my cooldown today, I've got Exodus Market, which is just behind me. It's just the other side of Sept. Always thank you, Parser. Thank you, Parser. Exodus Market, which is just the other side of Sept from where I am. So if any of you feel like if you're nosy like me and you decide to pop through a portal to Exodus to come and have a look at this little bit of land just outside of the Sept start town, where I'm building this, and I'm going to be transforming it a bit over the coming weeks and months. On your way back to the portal, maybe head out the opposite side of Sept and go and see the Exodus Market. You can't miss it. There is a great big shop sign. And if you care to, there is another market also behind it, Sanford's, which is Jake Rivers' place. So there's two markets right next to one another. Anyway, that's it, my lovelies. Maybe I will see some of you for Monday on the Epic Adventures stream, but if not, Calvert and I should be back next Friday doing something over on his channel, and I will be back next Saturday, probably out treasure hunting with Bun, when Bun gets around to double checking his calendar and finding out for sure. So I will catch all of you around at some point. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. Make the most of that skill gain event if that sort of stuff is important to you. And I will catch you guys soon. Take care.